Well, do you have any hypotheses while we're talking about that, just from a macro level view, right, of the state of pitching in baseball? Because obviously everyone on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it, they have thoughts about it. There are people speculating and there are conspiracies and, maybe it's related to the pitch clock. I don't know if we have enough data. I'm sure shaving 2 seconds off the pitch clock probably is not the smartest thing, considering
Yeah.
how early we are in its inception. To
Mhm.
me, it feels more just like velocity and max effort, where arms are not made to throw 100-mile-per-hour fastballs, whatever it might be, 30, 40, 50 times throughout a game, and then trying to sustain that over 30 starts throughout the course of the season. That's where I'm
Mhm.
mostly at, but I feel like maybe we just don't even have enough data yet on the pitch clock to know if that's causing it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think they all could be contributing factors. To what extent is hard to say. And of course, it's not like there was a conversation even before there were any it was any talk of pitch clocks or any of the other rule changes we've seen the last 2 years. There was a conversation of, oh, pitchers are getting hurt too often. So it's not like the conversation is new. It's just it feels like it's hitting harder to the most exciting players in the game. And that's actually something Spencer Strider himself touched on before the season. Uh, he was blaming the pitch clock, and in particular, shaving 2 more seconds off with runners on base. He said there's an injury epidemic in the game, regardless of velocity. If anything, the league is making rule changes despite an injury epidemic that could very well be encouraging injuries, such as the pitch clock, limiting the number of pitchers on the roster, how many pitching changes you can make, how many mound visits you can have. All those things are making pitcher harder and potentially, I think, making health more difficult to manage. With injury rates where they are, I don't know how we can blindly decrease the clock after the worst injury season in baseball, arguably, without having a conversation about injuries. The league talks about creating more action on the field. Well, when the best players in the league are hurt, how much interest is there in the game? And, that was a month prior to him suffering an injury. Now, is the pitch clock the number one reason? It's there were a lot of ideas being bandied about on social media and within media this whole weekend. Like Eno Saris and Ken Rosenthal for The Athletic wrote a report where they were talking to one of the game's leading orthopedic surgeons, and he was blaming the advent of the sweeper and the power changeup as reasons for the increase in injuries. I think back to 2021 and Tyler Glasnow, who was vocal, sort of like Spencer Strider here. Tyler Glasnow kind of called his own injury with the sticky substance crackdown. He's like, I have to change the grip on my fastball, on my curveball. I have to hold them deeper in my hand now. And he was talking about how the first start like that, it was one of his best starts of the season, but he felt pain in all sorts of places he hadn't felt it before because the amount of tension he was having to apply to the ball without any kind of, the sunscreen and rosin mix that players used to be able to use, without having that available to him. And like the next time out, he tears his ligament and needs Tommy John surgery. So, and I think about pitchers coming over from Japan where they have a tacky baseball, not having any health issues over there, and they come over here and it's not long before they start having health issues. So if I'm pointing the finger at any one thing like that, the lack of tack on the ball to me seems like the biggest problem. But that's just because I find that explanation most convincing, the way players break it down. It's not so much that I know, obviously. I like I said at the beginning, I think it's a combination of all of these factors, but I think it's depending on how things play out from here. I mean, maybe, hopefully, the injuries slow down and all the concern we're feeling now just seems like it was overblown. But if this becomes a season where like somebody's having to call Jamie Moyer out of retirement because their rotation is so devastated by injury, which is what we're on pace for right now, then I think it's something that's going to have to be evaluated in the offseason. And probably, I mean, it sounds like the players union's already making noise about it. So that noise would get even louder, I imagine.
I tried to make myself feel a little bit better, Scott, that we could see some pitchers return from injury soon. The Justin Verlanders, Sonny Grays, Walker Buehlers of the world. But it didn't really do the job. The fact is what happened this weekend happened. And it looks like, yes, Shane Bieber is out for the season and potentially Spencer Strider as well. While we're just wrapping up the conversation on those two, who do you suspect will fill their places in their respective rotations? Because my guess is Bryce Elder, probably for the Braves. I don't think it'll happen this week because apparently he pitched on Saturday, so he's not going to be ready to go by Wednesday. So maybe it's like Dylan Dodd for one start, but then Bryce Elder after that. For the Guardians, I mean, they are already dealing with an injury to Gavin Williams as well. So they're already shorthanded. I was speculating maybe Joey Cantillo, who's a pitching prospect in their organization. What are your thoughts?
They could move Tyler Beatty out of the bullpen. He was stretched out this spring. I don't think it'll be long, right? Gavin Williams is expected back soon. Maybe, unless something, it's an elbow issue. So hopefully, more interest in Bryce Elder, I would say. And I saw a couple people in deeper leagues where we go pretty deep into the pitching pool. I saw them picking up AJ Smith-Shawver. I think in all of those cases, Bryce Elder was already rostered because that's how deep we go into the pitching pool. And I think it will be Elder over Smith-Shawver, but there's now obviously one less obstacle to Smith-Shawver joining the rotation. His first start in the minors wasn't so good. So that's why I think he'll get passed over for now, but it's another name that's potentially more interesting in the long run. I also want to say for fantasy, I think the way you interpret this depends a lot on your league depth. Because it's no secret that a lot of the big industry leagues that get discussed the most online are 15-team roto leagues, which are very deep in there. Those kind of leagues where Bryce Elder was already rostered because we go so deep into the pitcher pool. But if you play, as more people do, if you play in something shallower, 12 teams or fewer, you're one of those people who we've been addressing over the last week. Oh, do you pick up Ronel Blanco? Do you drop AJ Puck? Do you, how do you find room for Jared Jones? I mean, if you're in that kind of league where there are more interesting pitchers than can be rostered, this is going to feel less devastating to you than if you're in one of those deeper leagues where like you're already like pitching is just completely gone on the waiver wire and your whole pitching plan is ruined. Like that's where I think it's most devastating, those deeper leagues. And, I guess I'm just trying to give people hope out there. Like, cause there's a lot of doom and gloom. I feel it. You feel it. It's real. It's fair, but not all is lost in leagues where you have pitching depth on the waiver wire. You can navigate this much easier.